Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. One of the cornerstones of the Beyond 50 radio program is business basics. A lot of people, as they approach midlife, decide for themselves that, having a job and saving a little bit of money for retirement may not be the ideal way to find themselves going off into the sunset in their golden years. Well, this day and age, who can count on retirement funds in the first place when everybody seems to be embezzling and using the money any way they want to, leaving you nothing but broke and twisting in the wind? Well, we believe you should take some accountability for yourself and do something about it. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is Mr. Steve Olsher. He's got a wonderful book called Internet Profits. It's the world's leading experts reveal how that you can profit online. Because after all, just setting up a website isn't going to be enough. People need to know that you're out there and what you can do about it. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Steve Olsher. Steve, thank you again for joining us here on the program.
Hey, man, how are you doing?
Doing great. I've been getting your newsletter and, ways that you can really, as you say, make a big explosion in 2013 and your steps in those 5 videos that you produced to show people how to go about doing that. And you've really produced some good information in there that people should know more about. Tell us how you came to come up with what you have here.
Well, I've been doing a lot in the online space, literally since 1993. And so we launched on CompuServe's Electronic Mall way back when. And so I've been kind of one of those internet pioneers and really do have a solid handle on what works and what doesn't work in the online space. And it's really become a matter of, my work is focused on helping people nichetize, as I call it, which is all about identifying their niche and then learning how to monetize it. And it all begins with the question of what is your what? What is that one thing that your soul is compelled to do? And once you understand what your what is, you then need to have the how. How do you share that gift with the world? And how do you make a living doing so? And that's where the Internet and Internet Profits, which is PROPHETS, really comes into play because that does provide the how. The Internet certainly leveled the playing field for all of us, because even those without any real budget, without any real money, have the ability to compete with even the biggest boys. And that's a lot of what I teach in the Internet Profits book and in the videos that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of did a nice little overview about how people should take a look at what the Internet is. And in your book, you have leading experts within Internet technology that share their different expertises on how, they went about sort of becoming that middleman, if you will, the way of connecting the world of people to the world of the Internet and, products and services and bringing them all together. One of the things, as I said, I had watched the videos that you had sent me, and the one thing that I really enjoyed that really stood out for me right off was when you talk about niches, that you try to show people how to, you've got that unique message, that unique thing that you have that you can share with the world is, put it out there, you will get an audience, and that is so true. And I think sometimes people kind of stop short or, they never really get started in the first place because they look at this expansive world and they want to try to claim the whole thing. And you don't really need to do that.
Well, let me just clarify. None of this is Kevin Costner-like, where if you build it, they will come. It all takes a lot of work. It all takes a lot of energy. But what I do know is that, if eBay can find a buyer at $1,000 plus for a piece of bread with Jesus' image on it, or if there are, 1 million jiu-jitsu practitioners or 100,000 left-handed quilters, certainly there are a number of niches out there that you can absolutely focus on, and the audience is much larger than you might ever expect.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the beautiful thing about what we found online, is that it's really connected people who have similar interests, abilities, tastes, ideas, etc., and gives them the opportunity to connect in a meaningful way that frankly just never existed before.
Right. I know, and the movie Julie on Julia kind of can give you a glimpse of an idea of how you can go about something like that. She took her passion of cooking, got a cookbook, decided to spend, 365 recipes in 365 days, which was pretty much every recipe in the cookbook, starts a blog, and before you know it, that becomes popular. So she attracted an audience through a specialization, but that was something that she put a lot of work into, as you said. I think people sometimes, they think, ooh, I'm going to go online and make all this money that I'm hearing about. There's my website, where's my traffic, let's get started. And the next thing you know, they start realizing, well, nothing's happening. Well, then an expert comes along and says, well, I can help you kind of do something about that, and so they sell a tool. One of the things I would like to talk about today, if I could, Steve, to be more specific than what we were with our last show, is to talk about a specific thing and go into a little more detail, perhaps, of how somebody can kind of take a better look at what they can do to make this happen for themselves. And I was thinking about search engine optimization, because there are a lot of people out there trying to pitch this tool about how they can maximize, you on the Google space, for instance. Let's first talk about what search engine optimization is and kind of go through a little detail on how somebody can improve that without having to pay all this money that, may or may not give them the kind of thing that they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, search engine optimization, it's exactly what you would think it is. It's optimizing your website to be found by the search engines. And so whether that search engine is Google or even Amazon or iTunes, for that matter, or YouTube, it's a matter of making sure that the languaging that you use on your site reflects the conversations that are going on in your prospect's mind. And so ultimately what is very, very important is to think about search engine optimization insofar as what others refer to as the long tail approach, which means let's, for instance, say you own a yoga studio in Nashville, Tennessee that specializes in Bikram yoga. Well, if you hire one of those companies to get the word out about what you're doing, and they tell you, hey, I can land you on page 1 for yoga on Google, but it'll cost you, $15,000 or whatever it might be. You have to understand that that's a really poor use of funds. It's a really bad investment, because most of the people, 99.9% of the people and change who are going to be searching for yoga are not going to be interested in a yoga studio in Nashville, Tennessee that specializes in Bikram. So they're going to be there looking for a yoga studio in Chicago, or they just want to find out what yoga is, or potentially they are looking for yoga clothing or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people make the mistake of trying to rank well for search terms that are, for all intents and purposes, here useless. And so what you really want to think about is, how do you rank well for people who are searching for Bikram yoga in Nashville, Tennessee? That's where you want to really start to concentrate your efforts. And frankly, you don't need to hire anyone to do that. It's simply a matter of making sure that the site that you have developed speaks specifically to the search terms that you believe people are looking for. It's not rocket science, and some people try to make it very complex.
Don't they? Then they talk about, it's kind of funny how they start sprinkling the seasoning known as greed. Once you're up at the top, everybody's going to go there, and that's where you make all the money. And then the question is, well, what do you sell? What is the product or the service? Because really, your website's more than just be a nice fancy picture, online that people find right away. But, as you said, it's about capturing information and selling things.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on what your overall goals and objectives are. I mean, some people are simply looking at websites from a branding perspective, which is a way to provide information around their particular topic that is of use to their audience without selling a single product or service.
Mm-hmm.
It's more entertainment and education value, which some refer to as edutainment. And there's definitely something to be said for that sort of branding, because in the long run, people appreciate those who provide the type of answers that they're looking for.
Right.
And really, when then it comes time to making a purchase decision, they remember the niceties that you've put forth. I mean, they remember the fact that you gave them 2 hours of content without asking for anything in return, and now all of a sudden they need someone who does what you do, and, well, who are they going to turn to? Someone they know and they like and they trust because you've established that relationship, or someone that they've never heard of.
Mm-hmm. Now, how can, as you said, search engine optimization is free, or sort of, suggest, because, again, as you said, it takes time and there's work involved. But, when you're willing to do this, I think sometimes people want to take that shortcut. They never, really take a look, well, what is my content, for instance? And, once I'm there, what do I do next? Sort of a thing. It's just, again, I think sometimes people who say that they can give you this optimization of your website kind of, again, to me, sort of prey on the greed of people, that potential that you're going to make, as though it's already money in the pocket. And, so what is it that people can start doing today? You've launched your website, and what is it they can do to be sure that they can start building their own rankings?
Well, the single best thing they can do is have a blog component of their site where they're writing articles about their particular topic. And the reason why that works is because the search engines love content. That search engines love original content. And so if you repurpose an article that you found elsewhere, it's not going to rank nearly as well as if you create completely original content. I don't know how the algorithms work, but somehow they're able to figure out that this is 90% what someone else said and 10% what you said, as opposed to 100% new material. And so you're always going to be better off creating new content, new articles, etc., and having those as a component of the site, because they help rank your site very, very well. And so, whatever your subject is, start writing on it. And they don't have to be long articles. I mean, they can be 300 to 400 words. It doesn't have to be anything ridiculous. And the other thing that I would highly suggest is that you then have a video component with a transcript attached to it as well that is then logged. So if you have let's say you're an accountant, you can do 10 videos on questions that are frequently asked by your client, and then have those transcripts put underneath as the post, if you will, to support the video. And then you've really met people where they are, because people like to learn in different ways. So some people like to learn by reading, and some people like to learn by watching. And so you have to really meet people where they are and provide those options based on how they want to learn.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about, targeting. One of the things that you talk about is words, for instance. I actually have a quick little, brief. Here's one from you, actually, that I have that came in, sold out 8 years in a row. Here it is, Steve Olsher, America's reinvention expert. And there you are doing a large seminar. I see Tom Cruise there in the front row. But here it is, hello, Daniel. This thing probably goes for about 3 or 4 quick little paragraphs. So as somebody who opens this up, and this is, kind of referring to your blog in a way, but this is also a lot quicker. I say, visually, I think I can read this real quick, And that's the other thing about online is, As people look for those quick kind of reads, but within that body, using the consistent right words that tag along specifically with what you do, is one of those things that help build this. And I know that you said in search engine optimization, I see it here pretty, at least twice, click here. And you talk about that within that. Talk about the importance of something like a click here, because that was really interesting.
Well, ultimately, whatever you do needs to have some sort of call to action, whether it's
right.
opting in for your email list or purchasing a product or service or sending someone somewhere for more information. There has to be a call to action. And frankly, there should be one call to action with whatever it is that you're doing. Now, you can have that same call to action in multiple places on the site or on the post or whatever it might be, but ideally you want to have one particular action that you want the recipient to take. And that's exactly what you're looking at there is the call to action.
Because I know when you look at something like what you have here, you hear out there, well, don't throw banner ads on, anywhere pretty much because people avoid those like the plague. But here you've used a banner, a very small strip, as a call to action more than anything. And I can see how something like that could be more effective.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because you have to go back to how people think. And you can't get into the mind of everyone. And so reality is banners are still very effective. Mm-hmm. And so in this case of the email that you're referring to, we've given people both options. We've given them the option of clicking on a banner, which is, it's kind of innate now to how you operate online. People see a banner, they know to click on it.
Right.
You don't have to explain it to people. They know what to do. And then conversely, you also have the text. And so if people want to read more about what it is that you're doing, and then they see the click here, well, then they also know because you're telling them, click here. So right. It is a matter of providing options that ultimately get you the same result.
Mm. Now, you talk about relevancy and link text, and you show basically what it is that there are three elements, I guess, that you really need to optimize to really maximize, I guess, your presence as people are searching. Talk about what each of these three things are here.
Well, so you're talking about, again, on the search engine optimization, then, correct?
Right. Yeah, we're staying on that topic there. So.
Yeah. So when you're referring to, in terms of what the different ways are of optimizing the site, so when you're talking about relevancy and you're talking about link tag, again, you're really just referring to what the search engines are looking for, and so relevancy is. It involves a couple of different things. So number one, relevancy is about keywords. And so what are the keywords that your visitor is thinking about? And so, again, going back to the yoga example, realistically, they're probably thinking about yoga, they're probably thinking about stretching, they're probably thinking about health and wellness, they're probably thinking about physical fitness, etc. Mm-hmm. And so all of those then become keywords that are placed within the body of your website. And of course, then what the search engines do is they then look for content that speaks to the keywords that you've targeted. Because if you target yoga, for instance, as a keyword, and someone comes to your site and it's about neuroscience, well, the engines are going to see that disconnect, and they're going to recognize that the content on your site is significantly different than the keywords that you're really trying to rank well for. Mm-hmm. And so that disconnect will boot you really down to the bottom of the barrel. And then the other thing that's really important insofar as what they call credibility, which is one of the elements of how a site ranks well, is what's known as inbound links.
Okay.
And so inbound links are really all about other sites that look at you as an authority on the subject.
Oh, okay.
And if they look at you as an authority on the subject, then it's almost like they're providing or not a reference, but they're providing validation that your site is good. Because, well, heck, if your site wasn't good, why would I link from mine to yours? So it must be good because you have all of these other sites that are linking from their site to yours. And so, I mean, those are three key things to really, really think about, which are keywords, content, and then inbound links. And actually, outbound links are pretty effective, too, because the engines want to know that you're sharing the love, that you are providing other resources, that you are looking online to other people who are doing similar things to what you're doing and can offer interesting content and information on the subject. And so outbound links actually help with ranking as well.
You know, Steve, I think that you're hitting on something that I think could be very important for the audience to understand, and that is that really, when it comes to the Internet and searching, it's no different than if you were out there, you know, let's say driving in your car or walking downtown, and there was something specific that you were kind of looking for, and you pretty much do the same thing. I'm looking, let's say, for a toaster oven, for instance. So you walk into a place like a Men's Warehouse because you may not be familiar, for instance, with downtown. Looking for a toaster oven, of course, Men's Warehouse sells suits. So you're not going to find anything like that there. But that specific person will say, oh, well, where you need to go is perhaps the store over here. Well, it's kind of the same thing as that you're becoming a reference point to send people perhaps in that moment somewhere else. Point being is you've become a trusted reference point. So you're really not sending somebody away from potential business for yourself, but you're actually gaining that possibility of future business for yourself. Does that kind of make sense with what we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's directly on point. So, I mean, that's exactly right. It's about relationships.
Right.
And ultimately, whether it's on or offline, businesses are built and lives are made based on the quality of relationships that they cultivate.
Mm-hmm. Because as you mentioned, one of the ways that a person can see themselves slowly growing, or at least growing in the ranks, so when you're throwing in those keywords as somebody is searching for something that could be relevant to what you're all about, that blog is valuable because, as you said, it posts fresh information. You know, that's something that, of course, you know, I guess what do they call them, internet spider things going, they look for. But the fact is the keywords in there, you're going to be refreshing those things, you know, and that's kind of what helps build. But then all of a sudden, you could be posting, let's say, something within your blog that sends somebody out to somebody else that you decided to create a relationship with. So that person's going to come back to you, well, they sent me there, and that was pretty cool. It's sort of like when you go into a place to rent a movie. You know, if somebody suggests when you decide, well, I don't know what I want to watch tonight, and they say, well, you got to check this out, and you check and you go, wow, that was a great movie. You're going to go back to that person and say, well, what else can you recommend? So you can see the relevance of how that begins to really help you.
Yeah, I mean that's the basis of how Amazon has been so successful.
Right.
I mean, it's that they became the masters of, if you like this, you'll also like that. And I mean, ultimately, that is the single biggest way if you've got an online store to boost sales. Because if you have been a customer of a particular product, then odds are good that you may actually like a complementary product, but if you never know about it, you'll never buy it. But if someone tells you about it, you'll consider it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about within your search engine optimization strategy, you know, obviously the key is, you know, that you also want to have good page titles. Now, tell us how that works a little bit and why that's important.
Well, again, it just goes back to relevancy.
Okay.
And so the idea here is you want to make sure, because page titles are going to provide a bit of a better ranking, if you will, insofar as how the engines look at the content on a page, and page titles are going to always carry more weight than just general text on the page. Not to say that they're both not important, because they're both very important, but a page title is really telling the engine what that page is all about, and the content then supports that. So your ranking will largely depend on relevant page titles. So again, you want to make sure that the title of each page is consistent with what the long tail approach is to what you want to rank well for. Mm-hmm. And again, I know it's a little bit confusing now. My friend Leslie Rohde, which is ROHDE, has a company called SEO Brain Trust, and so I highly recommend. I mean, I know a bit about SEO. There are people who know much more than I do.
Right.
And so I highly recommend that people check out Leslie Rohde. Again, it's Leslie is LESLIE, and Rohde is ROHDE, and his company is called SEO Brain Trust. And they've got great newsletters and whatnot that they provide that has lots of free content, great information.
And then there's also Steve Olsher himself, which is where we're leading a lot of people to as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, people can definitely find out more about me and grab a copy, actually a free copy of the book Internet Profits, PROPHETS, The World's Leading Experts Reveal How to Profit Online, which was named the Business Technology Book of the Year in 2012.
It is a great read, just to let the listeners know. Very engaging stuff. I mean, like I said, last time we had you on, we kind of did an overview of what the book is, and I thought it would be really kind of nice to see if you would also be willing to come back on the program again. And I thought, let's go ahead and pull out a little specific in an area that people are used to seeing, but they just feel like, God, it seems so complicated, so I'll pay this, person to do this. And as you said, you really don't need that. Just be willing to understand what the basics are and just start working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people can go to steveolsher.com. That's OLS like Sam, HER.com. And you'll see a few different things that I'm doing, and you can definitely grab, like I said, a copy of the book Internet Profits, and grab a copy of my first book, Journey to You, a step-by-step guide to becoming who you were born to be, and all of that is free.
Very good. Steve, thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. Look forward to having you back again, and really enjoy those little messages that you send. There's a lot to be gleaned from that people can actually... No, they're a lot of fun. They really are, and I like that you put the basics back in business basics, because that's so relevant. It's about doing the fundamentals, those same little things over and over and over again, and just doing them consistently better than everyone else. And that's the key that we're talking about here.
Absolutely, Will. Again, thanks for having me on. I look forward to our next chat.
You bet. The book is Internet Profits. Our guest today is Steve Olsher. You can find out how the world's leading experts can reveal how that you can profit online. Be sure to visit us at our website at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We do have a weekly e-newsletter that you can sign up for as well, and I'm sure we're going to have a nice little hot link for Steve Olsher so you can find out more about his work as well. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Daniel Davis. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.